If you hear the name Charles Boswell, you know who you're talking about because he's here talking to you today. Charles, take the floor.
What a warm welcome. Thank you, Dick, for inviting me. So you're probably wondering, why is this guy wearing a white hat? And the reason I'm wearing a white hat is because I don't want there to be any mistake about who the good guy is in the next election. Who the good guy is. So that being said, I walked in the room today and I started to smell something. I said, what is that smell? And I realized it was the smell of freedom. So my platform for the sheriff is very simple. Integrity, conservative values, and accountability. Some things that sadly the sheriff's office hasn't seen in a long time. For those of you who don't know me, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. Again, my name is Charles Boswell, and I was with the sheriff's office for 25 years. I was hired in 1991. Sheriff Chronister and I met nearly 30 years ago as Academy cadets. I started in the academy, he started right behind me. My academy was halfway finished when he started, and he was a nice guy. I liked him a lot. I knew him as Chad. Our careers took very different paths. Chad took a political path, and I took a path of a blue-collar guy from Plant City. I worked 7 years on patrol. From there, I became a school resource officer in a middle school. I stayed there for 5 years. From there, I was promoted to detective, and I did a variety of assignments while I was there. My first assignment as a detective was as a juvenile detective. That means we worked crimes against children. I saw all sorts of horrible crimes against children. And even though it was a hard job, it was really one of my most rewarding jobs in the sheriff's office. We had the most defenseless of victims, and I was able to be a voice for those kids. So I love the job. Hard, but I loved it. From there, I moved to violent crimes. I stayed in violent crimes for a while. After that, I moved on to a FBI task force. I stayed there for a short bit. We rounded up gang members here in Hillsborough County and solved quite a few murders. Then I went back to violent crimes and then homicide. And that's my experience as a latent investigator. So what brought me here? What brought me to my retirement? So it was a series of events. When I was a homicide detective, I sat in on an interview with another detective. And during that interview, the other detective made a statement to a suspect. And the statement was, if you confess to your involvement, this was a murder case, if you confess to your involvement, we will let you go home. We'll let you go home. And it was captured on tape. That's called coercing a confession. And it's illegal. And it's a violation of the Fifth Amendment. You can't do it. And I wasn't okay with that. And the reason I wasn't okay with that is because even though this girl had committed a horrible crime, I knew that her statement was going to be suppressed. In other words, the key evidence that we had against her wasn't going to make its way in front of the jury. It was going to be thrown out. And although this detective and I had the same goal of getting this girl to prison because she needed to go to prison, we wanted to take different paths to go there. I wanted to do a little bit extra work, which she didn't want to do, so I advised against that arrest. You shouldn't arrest her. We've got plenty of evidence. We have this, we have that, we have videotape, we have text messages. So let's just give it a little bit more time. And we'll arrest this girl a few days from now. And they didn't take my advice and they arrested her anyway. A year later, they wanted me to say things that weren't truthful in court in regards to that confession that was captured on tape. And I wasn't okay with that, because that meant I would have had to have committed a felony about something that was captured on tape. Think about that for a second. I would have had to lie about something that was captured on tape. The question about what that would have done to my credibility is self-evident, would have been destroyed. And I wasn't okay with that. And I testified truthfully, and as a result of that, her statement was suppressed. Now, she went on to plead guilty in the case. Instead of receiving life, which I believe she would have, if we would have done it the correct way, she got 10 years. So that means we're going to be dealing with this person again in the future. But because that statement was suppressed, the sheriff's office retaliated against me. And we locked horns. And we went round and round and round until my retirement. And they demoted me. They started rumors about me. They launched investigations on me based on the rumors that they themselves started. And I ultimately retired because of it. And I left. So I retired after 25 years, and I started my own business. I started a consultation firm. And I consulted to attorneys who had clients whose civil rights were violated. And I consulted with attorneys who were dealing with cases of police misconduct. And I became a college professor. I started teaching the law to college students. Taught at 2 separate colleges. And so I was happy. Moved on with my life. I left the sheriff's office behind. And even though I had many good years there, and I had many friends there, the truth of it was I wanted nothing more to do with it. I wanted to move on with my life. I wanted to be a father. I wanted to be a husband. I wanted to be a son to my parents. And all the things that I really didn't get an opportunity to do as a detective. So I moved on, and I left it behind me. And then we had a sheriff who started making a series of very serious constitutional missteps. And the people that were calling me were people at the sheriff's office. People who had retired from the sheriff's office, people who cared about the sheriff's office, and people who cared about this community, or fellow law enforcement officers who wanted me to come back and lock horns with the sheriff's office yet again. And I told them, no, I didn't have it in me. I wanted nothing more to do with the place, nothing more. And this one went on for a period of time. And then we had coronavirus hit, and there was a lockdown. And we had a pastor who defied that lockdown. And he defied the rule of law that had been placed here in Hillsborough County by having the audacity to preach to his congregation and exercise his First Amendment privileges. That's what he did. Now, prior to that, you have to understand a series of events that happened. On March 26th, there was a county ordinance that was being put in effect, and you may have heard about it, 2005. We had a sheriff, the other guy, as Dick calls him, the other guy participated in creating that law. So you ask yourself, is there a problem with a sheriff, a sitting sheriff, helping to construct law? You think there might be a conflict of interest there? Creating a law and then going out and enforcing the very law that you're creating. First of all, there's an issue with that. You can't do that. But at any rate, he did. He did. While he was in the process of voting that law, he was told by the county attorney prior to voting on the law that it was non-enforceable. It was non-enforceable. What that means is they could strongly suggest that you follow the guidelines, but if you choose to say, I'm not going to do that, then it was non-enforceable. Everybody knows what non-enforceable means, right? It means you can't arrest on it. It means you can't do anything on it. That was on March 26th. That's what he was told on March 26th. Now let's move forward to March 29th. March 29th, we had a pastor who preached to his congregation. He exercised his First Amendment privileges. We had a sheriff who had helped to create a law by voting on it, who had been told that it was a non-enforceable law, who then put out an arrest warrant for a pastor for exercising his First Amendment privileges, who wasn't even at the service in question, and then went into another county and threatened to use force to arrest him. You think that might be some overreach? Where's the discernment? Where's the common sense? And he made a public spectacle out of it, and he bragged about it, and he publicly stated that he was prepared to use force. Pastor turned himself in, showed leadership, he showed grace, turned himself in, and they went forward with the charges. And then the pastor retained some attorneys who knew the Constitution. And that other guy got served with what's called a notice of intent to sue, and he wasn't so tough then. What he did do was he called the pastor behind closed doors and scheduled to have a lunch date with him. Odd. Let's think about this for a second. The pastor is a defendant in a criminal case that the sheriff himself initiated, knowing that it was a violation of the law. The sheriff arguably is a defendant in a federal civil lawsuit, and the sheriff thinks it's appropriate to call up the pastor and have lunch with him as if there's no conflict of interest. And so the next thing that happened was the charges against the pastor were dropped. I don't believe that the federal lawsuit is going to be dropped. I believe that the pastor has a strong federal case against the sheriff for the gross violation of his First Amendment privileges. And I support the pastor. And it sounds like there are a lot of people in this room that support the pastor too. Here's the problem with the lack of discernment on the sheriff's part. Who do you think is going to foot the bill for that lawsuit? We are. We are. And it's a price that I'm willing to pay for our First Amendment privileges for the Constitution. It needs to be done because a statement needs to be made. No sheriff, no law enforcement officer has the right to violate the Constitution, and yet it was done in a reckless manner. At the same time that was going on, we had prisoners, inmates from the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office being released, and we had a sheriff who didn't have the foresight to do a background check on these individuals, incredibly enough. Makes me want to sit up here and slap my forehead and say, I could have had a V8. Right? He let him go, and we all know the consequence of that. And we laugh about the decision because it's such an idiotic decision. It's a common sense decision. You do background checks on people that you're going to let out of prison without any bond. But yet he did it. And we know what the results were. Tragedy. One of our citizens, we are one citizen short today because of that decision. He was murdered. He was murdered the next day. That happened. That happened. So let's talk about that young man that was let out. That young man was a registered gang member with the Bloods. That young man had a violent criminal history. That young man had been to prison. That young man had violent weapons charges. That young man had resisted with violence with police officers. Where is the common sense? Where is the discernment? Arguably it wasn't there. Arguably it doesn't exist. These are decisions that affect all of us. So we talked about integrity. Without integrity, you have nothing else. I can tell you whatever you want to hear, or whatever I want to say, but unless you know that I have integrity to carry it out, it doesn't matter. You have to know that your sheriff is going to have integrity, and you have to know that your sheriff is going to make the right decision without having to ask him what he's going to do. Correct? Correct. Where's the integrity in creating a law and then going out and arresting a pastor, despite the fact you know it's a non-enforceable offense? Is there any integrity in that? Is that the kind of sheriff that we want making decisions on our behalf, representing us?
No.
It's a self-evident question. Conservative values. What does that mean? Respect for the Constitution, love of country, respect for freedom of religion, respect for freedom of speech, all First Amendment privileges, Second Amendment. How important is the Second Amendment to all of us? We had a sheriff, the other guy, who thought it'd be a really good idea to look into people in this county who own guns. Excuse me, Sheriff Chronister, it's none of your business.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
It's none of your business if I have a gun or not, because the Constitution of the United States guarantees that I'm allowed to have a gun if I want to, and I don't have to check in with you. For some reason, Sheriff Chronister doesn't think that's a good idea. He thinks he supersedes the Constitution. We saw the results of that. An unconstitutional arrest of a young man who was driving his car, carrying a weapon legally, which resulted in his arrest, and Chronister posted on Facebook as if that were something to be proud of. Of what did he have to be proud? An illegal arrest? Unconstitutional violation? And when the young man spoke out about it, he does a public statement. We didn't violate his rights any way, shape, or form. And then does a third press release changing his mind once he was educated on the law. We don't have 4 more years to put our sheriff in remedial training. These are things that he should have learned on his first 25 years as a law enforcement officer. This is Police Academy 101 stuff. Fourth Amendment. Who knows what Fourth Amendment privileges are? Fourth Amendment privileges means that if a government official comes to your house, even if he really wants to come inside because he thinks maybe you did something wrong, if he thinks that maybe you're holding guns inside your house, or maybe you're holding a religious service, or maybe you're saying things that you don't like, or he doesn't like, those Fourth Amendment privileges protect you from him coming inside your house against your will. He can knock on your door and ask for permission, but if you don't want him there, you can say, I don't want to let you in my house. Have a good day. And he's forced to leave. How does that affect us? This is a serious question. I want you to consider this. Would you trust Sheriff Chronister?
No.
In standing between you and an AOC who, when she wants to send deputies to your house to collect things that you rightfully own? That's exactly right. Another great point. He's making media appearances on Tiger King in the midst of it all. So the question is, who is going to protect you if we get somebody up there who wants to violate your constitutional rights? That's where we get to my job. The sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer of his or her county. It's a constitutional position. We're sworn to uphold the Constitution. Chief law enforcement officer in the county. That means it's the sheriff's job to stand between you and government officials who would dare to violate your civil rights. It's my promise to you that as your sheriff, nobody's going to violate your civil rights. It's my promise to you as your sheriff, I'm going to uphold you. It's my promise to you that I'm going to uphold the Constitution. And it's a guarantee that I'm going to work every single day to be the best sheriff that this county has ever seen. Thank you.